Detective, could you please state your name for the record and spell out for the court reporter?
Detective Callahan, Kevin Callahan, Callahan.
Detective, can you please tell us by whom you are employed?
City of Cleveland Division of Police.
What is your position in your employment?
Detective,
And how long have you been a police officer in the city of Cleveland?
22 years.
And how long have you been a detective?
About 10 years. For the last 7 or 8 years now, I've been assigned as the missing person detective in the 4th District.
And can you explain to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what a missing person detective is and what do you do on a day-to-day basis?
Missing person detective, each district has a person that's strictly assigned to missing person investigations. I will investigate all missing persons in the 4th District, whether it's an adult or a juvenile.
And I'm going to direct your attention to January 27th, 2017. On that day, did you receive any type of assignments to follow up on?
I did.
If you tell ladies and gentlemen of the jury what assignment you received?
I received the follow-up investigation for Alianna DeFreeze.
And upon receiving that assignment, what type of information do you receive in order for you to start your investigation?
On that particular morning, I was briefed by the 3rd shift officer, Officer Bruma, who advised me that the report was taken at approximately 4:30 p.m. on the 26th, and that they were following leads since then through the night, and the information that I was gathering, that I was getting on Friday, was that Alianna was seen getting off the bus, RTA bus, at East 93rd in Kinsman at approximately 6:52 in the morning, and that there was also information that she never showed up for school, and then there was possible information that she possibly went to the McDonald's, also in that same area, 93rd in Kinsman.
And you talked about getting this information or kind of being briefed on what had been going on so far by an Officer Bruma. Do you know how many officers have been working on this case prior to you becoming involved?
I don't. I do know that it was taken at 4:30 in the afternoon on Thursday. There definitely would be at least one officer following up on the 2nd shift car and the 3rd shift car. I don't recall how many people were actually involved.
But by the time you get involved, you've already got information that Alianna got on the bus Route 14, is that correct?
Correct.
And then she got off the bus around East 93rd and Kinsman, is that correct?
Correct. Officer Ruma stated that they had the RTA police review the video overnight, and then they had reached out to Officer Ruma and verified that she was seen on the bus, which is bus number 14.
And then you also stated that, so you have information that she gets off the bus in that location, and that possibly she might have gone to McDonald's.
Correct.
And that's all information that was obtained and given to you by other officers, is that correct?
Correct.
And that caused you to do something.
It does.
Can you tell, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, as you get this kind of report and this briefing, what do you do next?
Well, it was right at that time that I did receive a phone call from a family member of Alianna DeFreeze, Miss Ariel Bell, had reached out to me. She is the niece of Alianna's father, Damon. She had reached out to me in regards to this investigation.
And did you can't say what she said to you, but did you learn things that would cause you to want to follow up?
I did.
On what information she had given you?
At that point, I was turned on to a male by the name of Thomas, and I learned through the investigation that he was an ex-boyfriend of Alianna's mother, Miss Cooper. He was allegedly a registered sex offender and living at the homeless shelter 2100 Lakeside, and I was getting information that he had possibly had contact with Alianna maybe a week or two prior to this whole incident.
And this information you're receiving is just through information that's coming into you from different sources?
Correct.
Do you follow up on this?
I do.
And tell ladies and gentlemen, jury, how you followed up on this?
At that point, I reached out to Miss Cooper, Alianna's mother, gather some information, verify the times and the information in the initial report, and then I also asked her about Thomas, and him being an ex-boyfriend, that she had contact with him. She was able to provide me his name of Thomas Daniels, and some other information, and I think maybe a date of birth or at least an age. Ultimately, I was able to do some computer checks and learned exactly who Mr. Daniels was.
Did you learn whether or not Ms. Cooper had had any contact with Mr. Daniels for some time?
One more time, please.
Did you learn whether or not Ms. Cooper had had any type of contact with Mr.
Ms. Cooper said she had not spoken to him in some time. And she didn't know anything about him having any contact with Alianna at that point.
And what do you do next?
At that point, I did respond to the homeless shelter at 2100 Lakeside to interview Mr. Daniels. Mr. Daniels was there, and I was able to interview him. He, at the time, did not have any kind of contact with either Alianna or her mother. Didn't know exactly what was going on in regards to Alianna. He said that he is a bus driver for the 2100 Lakeside, where he would drive other people to appointments and whatnot. So I was able to confirm that with Mr. Smith, who's like the director of the homeless shelter. I obtained his driving logs from that day to verify where he was at that particular time.
So in terms of him being a person of interest in this case, kind of eliminated him right off the bat?
Pretty much, yeah. He was pretty solid.
What do you do after that?
After that, I responded to Ms. Cooper's address to re-interview Ms. Cooper in person. I was able to get some background information, verify the times when Alianna went to the bus. She didn't actually show up at school. And then I did a check of her residence, which is typical in our procedures.
Can you explain to the ladies and gentlemen, jury, what a check of a residence means? What does it entail?
Yeah, anytime we get a missing person in Cleveland, we will check the residence where the missing person lives. So we'll check, looking for any kind of evidence, maybe a note or something to help us lead us in a direction of where he or she may be. So at that point, we obviously would check Alianna's room and just we do check the whole house. If there's a basement, attic, so forth, check the whole thing.
And you did that in this case?
We did.
And did you find anything of interest that would assist your investigation?
Not at that point, no.
And in your gathering of information, whether it's through your briefings with other officers or with speaking with Ms. Cooper directly, did you learn what items of clothing Alianna was wearing that day?
I'm sure I don't recall what I asked.
So after speaking and doing this house check, what do you do next?
At that point, we had gone back to the district, and we, Mr. DeFreeze, Damon DeFreeze, and as well as his wife were at the district. So I had sat down and interviewed both Mr. DeFreeze and the stepmom to get more information on the family dynamics. We were also getting information at that time from the school that another student was alleging that she's seen Alianna on the afternoon bus, the Union bus, after school approximately 3:15. So at that point, as I was interviewing, after we were done interviewing Mr. DeFreeze and his wife, Officer Perkins responded to the school, or talked to the school principal to try to get some information on the student. And I had gone to, I went to McDonald's at that point to review the video in the morning to see if Alianna had shown up in McDonald's that morning.
Okay. So you give a lot of information in that answer to your questions. I just want to make sure we parse it out a little bit. So you had talked with Damon DeFreeze, is that correct?
Correct.
And who is Damon DeFreeze in relation to Alianna?
That is her father.
You also say that you spoke with a stepmother, is that correct?
Correct.
So the stepmother and Mr. DeFreeze are together.
Correct.
And then you mentioned a person by the name of Officer Perkins. Can you tell us who Officer Perkins is?
Officer Perkins is an officer who was assigned to the day shift in the 4th District. He is a patrolman. And Officer Perkins' job at that time was to follow up on missing person investigations that would be considered endangered or in danger.
So Officer Perkins is another person assigned to this missing person's task.
Correct.
And is this something that you usually work with on assignments such as these?
Yes.
Almost like a partner.
Almost like a partner, yes.
Do you have a partner as a missing person detective?
I don't.
So Officer Perkins goes to interview a young lady at the school. Do you know what school that was?
That was E-Prep.
And then you go to McDonald's, correct?
Correct.
So when you're at McDonald's, can you tell ladies and gentlemen jury what happens there?
At the McDonald's, I went in there and spoke to the manager and was asking to review the video from the morning of the 26th. And I was looking for the video from 6:50 in the morning until roughly, I think, 8 o'clock. To see if I can see Alianna coming into the store. McDonald's does not have any video on the outside. They strictly have interior video. I did watch the video that day and never did see Alianna go into McDonald's.
So somebody at McDonald's had allowed you to view their video?
Correct.
And then you sat down and actually viewed how much time of video on that McDonald's?
That was from 6:45 in the morning until 8 o'clock on video time, 8 in the morning. An hour and 15 minutes worth.
And during that time of reviewing, did you see anybody who had matched description or the images of Alianna?
No.
What do you do after viewing the McDonald's video and seeing that you did not go into McDonald's?
At that point, I went back to the district and that we were getting some more information at that time that Alianna was possibly seen at 9 o'clock in the morning with another unknown adult male at a convenience store on Woodland Avenue. So we were getting information on that. And then we were also getting information, I'd also received information somewhere that day that Alianna's phone was pinged on the night of the 26th, and it came back to a location in the 5th District. So I was looking to follow up on that as well. And then I also reached out to Detective Kemet of the RTA Police, and I was requesting video, actual hard copy video of the bus lines that Alianna had, the Kinsman bus line, the Union bus line, the East 93rd bus line, and also the Union bus line where she possibly was seen in the afternoon on the 26th. And then I also that day talked to Sergeant Young because he was the sergeant who pinged Alianna's phone, and I actually had learned that the phone was not pinged. They did not get a ping on the phone that night.
So, at some time, did you learn about a phone and the discovery of that phone?
For Alianna's phone?
Correct. Or for this phone that we're talking about now, the one that was being pinged?
Oh, no, at this point, it was my assumption that it was on Alianna's person.
So what do you do after this point?
At that point, I requested McDonald's to get me a copy of their video from that time that I reviewed the video, and they told me that the manager who's in charge of that video would be able to get back to me. On that night, at that point, the zone cars followed up on the rest of the investigation. I had gone home. But I did receive a phone call that night from BCI, Ohio BCI, stating that they did phone checks on Alianna's phone. The records came back that the phone was inactive since January 21st. So I requested that they email me those records so I can have that.
You talk about Ohio BCI. Can you explain to ladies and gentlemen what that is?
BCI is they are a state government entity that does assistance with Bureau of Criminal Investigations. So they assist us on many of phone call records, being able to track phones, checking phone logs, and those sort of things. So they had done that in this case, got the phone number that belonged to Alianna, and had done phone checks on there to see what we're ultimately looking for is any kind of recent phone calls people that should reached out to. But again, we learned that the phone was off, and it was off since January 21st.
After learning that, what do you do next when you come back on shift the next day?
That next day, well, that night, when I go back that night, I did receive a call also from Sergeant Wilson from the RTA Police, and he advised that he would have the video of the RTA bus line for me on the next morning, the next afternoon about 2:30. And then I also reached out to PO Officer Roddy, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, and asked him to follow up on that lead where Alianna was possibly seen at the convenience store on Woodland.
And to your knowledge, in the process, in the course of your investigation, did you find out if that lead was fruitful about Alianna being on Woodland?
It was not.
So that was followed up on,
It's followed up on, yes.
And then you talk about videos in this case. So far, we've talked about the RTA video, the McDonald's video. And not only just the RTA from bus 14, but you requested several other bus lines, is that correct?
Correct.
Did you yourself review these videos, or were there other individuals in your department working on this case as well that reviewed those videos for you?
The video that I reviewed was the Kinsman bus line where it shows Alianna on the bus and exiting the bus at East 93rd and Kinsman. A lot of the other bus lines, in regards to the review and all the video, it came from other officers that were handling, or that were helping do the investigation.
Which officer would be one of the main officers who was working on the videos?
Officer Elaine.
That's I-L-A-I-N?
Correct.
So now, you've gotten this call from the RTA saying, come pick these videos up. What happens the next day?
The next day, Sergeant Wilson did bring that video there to me at the 4th District. At that point, I did review the video, and there was a couple of things that we saw on the video. We saw Alianna talking to a younger age kid, approximately her age, high school age kid, that piqued our interest because she was having some sort of conversation with him. And then there was also another adult male that was seen on that video who was seen exiting the bus when Alianna did exit the bus. That piqued our interest as well.
Why does a person getting off the bus pique your interest as a detective in the missing person case?
Well, it was a little bit more than that. He had gotten off the bus, fallen Alianna's same path Alianna was going, where she was crossing East 93rd Street to the other side. And that male in that video appeared to reach out and say something to her in the crosswalk. That kind of piqued our interest. He was an older adult male, had no conversation with her whatsoever on the bus, but reached out and appeared to have said something to her in that crosswalk.
Is that something at this time worth you following up on as a person working this case?
Yes.
Now, for the record, I'm going to start State Exhibit 202 at 6:50:14. Date stamp is 1/26/2017. So State Exhibit 202 is at 6:51:05 on 1/26/2017. Do you see that, Detective Callahan?
I do.
And in your testimony, you talked about an individual that was a person of interest to you during your investigation. Do you see that individual on the bus at this time?
I do.
Can you describe him and indicate where you're sitting at for ladies and gentlemen so they understand who you were looking at in your investigation and why you did what you did?
It's the male that is in the middle of the screen there with a white hoodie. The hood is up, and you can see like half his body.
Am I pointing to the correct person?
That is correct.
So at this time in your testimony, we're focused on that individual and as the main person of interest, is that correct?
Correct.
I'm going to play it from this point, Your Honor, 6:51:05. Pause it here. On this video, it kind of split screen, is that correct?
Correct.
Now, these RTA videos that you would watch and review, are they just one angle or do they have multiple angles on these bus videos?
They have multiple angles. They have interior bus video, and then they also have video that is on the exterior of the bus.
Can you explain to ladies and gentlemen, jury, without us having to go through each screen, can you explain to ladies and gentlemen, jury, what angles that those videos have on those buses? If you can.
I'm not sure if I understand the question exactly. There's a video. I'm sorry. There's a camera on the outside of the bus that will record a certain distance from the bus. It'll hit the sidewalk and a certain distance, and you'll be able to see people and cars coming and going on each side of the bus.
So in State Exhibit 202, at this time, it's split screen. Are these videos both from the same RTA video that you received for that bus 14?
Yes.
And the person that you said was of interest, can you tell us where he is on the split screen at at this time?
He is on the right video, and he is wearing all white. That would be him, correct?
And on that video there, in that crosswalk area is where he said he gave you some indication, something that made you want to follow up on. Is that
Correct.
right? And did you follow up on it?
I did not personally, but somebody else, an investigation did.
What do you do next, sir?
At that point, after seeing that video there, and you can tell that the video for the RTA bus ends after the bus keeps moving along Kinsman and past East 93rd, I responded to the Shell gas station, which is right on that corner where that bus passes. I went inside there to check to see what kind of video was available there, and they too only had interior video. I was just looking to see if Alianna had gone in the store there. She wasn't, didn't appear to go into McDonald's. I thought maybe she went into... I'm sorry. I thought maybe she had gone into the Shell gas station.
Did you do anything to check on that hunch?
I did. I went in and was able to briefly review the video. They didn't have an operator there at that point. So I did watch a little bit of the video, and I was told to come back at like 3:30 in the afternoon. The guy who could run that system would be there.
And when you briefly watched that video, did you see anything that was of interest to you or would indicate that Alianna had any time entered that store?
There was nothing on the video that indicated Alianna had gone in the store.
So what do you do next?
At that point, I started to check vacant lots in the area of 93rd and Kinsman, also along the path of Kinsman to Union, which would be the school route.
Why do you do that?
That's part of a normal routine in a missing person investigation. Check the area where the missing person was last seen. So I did start to do that. I checked a lot, which would have been on the west side of McDonald's. There's a vacant lot over there that I had, big vacant lot over there that I had walked through and checked.
Okay. And did you see anything?
Nothing of interest, no.
What else did you do?
Then I crossed the street from Kinsman on the south side of the street, across the street from what would be the Shell gas station and McDonald's. There's also a vacant lot over there. So I went through and I checked that vacant lot over there, and again, didn't find anything of interest.
What did you do next?
At that point, I got in my car and I drove the route from East 93rd in Kinsman to East 93rd in Union, which is where Alianna School is at. And I was looking for video cameras in the area, and I was taking a log of where I would see either city cameras or residential cameras or commercial cameras to mark them so we can possibly get in there and review the cameras.
And how many places did you locate that had cameras on? Well, first of all, let me ask, did you locate places that had cameras?
I did.
And was there anything done to follow up with those places to see if those cameras caught anything?
There was, by Officer Elaine.
I'm sorry?
Elaine, I-L-A-I-N. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but
That's fine.
I-L-A-I-N.
I believe it's Detective Bilal, B-I-L-A-L, Elaine, I-L-A-I-N.
Correct.
So the information that you received, this log you're taking, you pass that off to that detective,
Correct.
and he would have all of us on it.
Correct.
What did you do next?
I also came up to a vacant lot on East 93rd and Fuller. I also checked that vacant lot, and again, didn't find anything of interest at that point.
What do you do next?
At that point, I went back to the district and I talked to the principal, Ms. Squires. to follow up on some of the leads in regards to Trinity Brown. That was the girl that possibly saw her on the bus in the afternoon. And so I talked to Ms. Squires, and she was able to give me some contact information for Trinity Brown. I also was turned on by Ms. Squires turned me on to a teacher by the name of Brandon Key, that also had reported seeing her, seeing Alianna on East 93rd at about 6:15 on the morning in question.
And so you can't tell us what Brandon told you, but did you interview him?
I did, a couple of days after that.
And did he give you information about seeing Alianna on East 93rd?
He did.
And roughly what time was she on East 93rd and what area?
He roughly seen her in the at around 6:50 in the morning, 6:50 in the area of East 93rd. I don't remember the side street, but he had reported East 93rd and Kinsman area, Ford area, in that area.
Cool. What information after receiving this information about this young lady who had reported seeing Alianna in the afternoon, did you follow up on that?
At what point did I?
Did you follow up?
I did. It would have been the next day.
And were you able to confirm that that person saw Alianna in the afternoon?
I confirmed that she did not.
What do you do next?
At that point, on that day, which will still be Saturday, I responded back to Ms. Cooper's house for further information, just follow-up information, anything else she might have.
Do you have anybody with you that day?
Officer Perkins is with me as well. I was able to interview her living boyfriend, and then I started to get information from them that a family friend by the name of Jeremiah Mundy and his son Josiah, I think is what it was, might have information. So it was another lead on possibly on Alianna's activity.
And did you follow that?
Another detective did, but I did not.
What did you do after that?
At that point in investigation, I started getting information about a couple of boyfriends that Alianna, either ex-boyfriends, current boyfriends, friends, she might have. And I was being turned on to by the name of Jeremiah and his brother Malachi. So we started to, at that point I was getting ready to leave for the day. So I had asked Officer Thomas, who was a second shift officer, I believe, to follow up on that lead to try to get information on this Jeremiah and Malachi and where they live, contact information, and those sort of things. So I relayed that information to Officer Thomas.
And after doing that, does it come a point in time where you return to Ms. Cooper's home?
I did. On Saturday night, I had reached out to Special Agent Andy Burke of the FBI, requesting his assistance on this investigation.
Why do you do that?
I have the FBI officer. Special Agent Burke in particular has helped me out on many missing person investigations. There's more resources that the FBI can offer, manpower, those sort of things. So on Saturday night, Saturday afternoon on my way home, I reached out to Special Agent Burke, requested that he help me out with this, and he agreed to, and he met me at the police station on Sunday the 29th.
Can you talk a little bit about what type of manpower is being given to this search for Alianna at this point?
At this point, up through Saturday, we had numerous detectives, like Palau. We had the zone cars. We had Lieutenant DeFranco, who's the lieutenant of the 4th District Detective Bureau. Sergeant Ingeli, who's the sergeant of the 4th District Detective Bureau. Numerous zone cars were also doing searches of the area, just a ton of people.
And at this point, you asked for the assistance of the FBI.
I did.
And then once Special Agent Burke is with you, what do you do?
At that point, I briefed Agent Burke on everything that we had learned up until that point, which would have been on Sunday morning. It was at that time that we did receive a call from Ms. Cooper stating that she found Alianna's phone under a dresser in her room. So at that point, Agent Burke and I responded to Ms. Cooper's house. We recovered the phone. She signed a consent to search the phone, which Agent Burke took and took the phone and consent. And we had gone back to the police station to start the workup on the phone.
After doing that, what did you do next?
At that point, Agent Burke and I had gone across the street from the district, so that would have been East 93rd and Kinsman. There's a, I guess it would be the southwest corner. There's a Kinsman Express, it's a convenience store, just directly across the street from the Shell gas station. And we reviewed video there to see if we could see Alianna walking across the street on the west side of the street heading towards her school. So we reviewed that video about an hour and 10 minutes worth roughly, and did not see any signs of Alianna on that video.
What happens next?
At that point, I had received information of Alianna's half-sister, and her name is Lieutenant, I'm going to butcher the last name, but it's Baton.
You spell it for us?
And it is, first name is Lieutenant, and the last name is Beytanishchild.
Did you go by any other name?
Not that I'm sorry, Angela.
So did you interview this person?
We did.
Did you receive information from her that you had to follow up on?
Only thing that she had piqued our interest on is that she had mentioned a boy that Alianna was talking to by Jeremiah. She didn't know anything else on him, but Alianna had mentioned something about Jeremiah to her. Is what we followed up on.
And what was the last time, did you learn when the last time that Alianna spoke with Lieutenant?
I don't recall.
So after learning that information, what do you do next?
At that point, then we went to Trinity Brown's house to interview Trinity Brown. And again, she was the girl that reported allegedly seeing Alianna on the bus in the afternoon, which we interviewed her. And that was when we found out that wasn't exactly correct.
So during your investigation, you're getting leads, following them down. There comes a point in time where you learn of exactly what happened to Alianna. Is that correct?
Correct.
When is that?
That would have been on Sunday night, roughly 9:30 at night.
After learning about Alianna, do you have a continuing role in this case?
At that point, the only thing I really did was I did receive video from McDonald's that I forwarded to the homicide detectives, and then I interviewed that teacher, Brandon Key, early. Everything else was passed off to homicide detectives.
At some point in time, did you contact the mother of Ms. Cooper to try to get dental records from her?
I did. I got the dental record, the information from Alianna's dentist, which I forwarded to the coroner's office.
All this searching you're doing, all these locations you're looking at, what county are those all included in?
Cuyahoga County.
And I see that you have, what are you referring to there? Is that something to help you in your testimony today?
Not so much. I reviewed this as what we call formal in the Cleveland Police Department.
So your police report?
Correct.
Nothing further, Your Honor. No, Your Honor.